here before. Yeah, I'm very familiar. Right now, believe it or not, it is actually 2:30 a.m. in the morning on a Wednesday. Yes, Wednesday. The reason why I'm up so late is because there is just so much stuff that I have to do that I feel like I'm already behind on. Usually I don't recommend pulling an all-nighter just because it's actually not the best way to study. Sometimes the means justify the end. Sometimes there is just so much that you want to do and you don't have enough time, so you have to make like sacrifices, and I feel like this is a sacrifice that I'm willing to make. Just sorry, I'm tired. Just not often. Like, I don't want to be taking all-nighters often. So to keep me awake, I've gotten coffee, G7 Vietnamese coffee, keep me awake, and yeah, let's go to the table, shall we? So, for context, it is currently the 3rd week of med school, and yeah, I feel like I'm already behind. There is content that we have to learn for this week. This week we're focusing on the small intestines. We had a progress test yesterday, Monday, which is like an exam covering on all of the, I guess, clinical aspects of a doctor. So like, it's the exam that you need to pass before you become an intern in Australia. Essentially this week we're covering a new physical exam. So over the past 2 weeks we've been learning how to perform a gastrointestinal exam, physical exam that is, and now we're going to move on to musculoskeletal, so your hands and your elbows. Even though we haven't really covered that, like we haven't learned the pathophysiology of the MSK, but we're going to learn how to do a physical exam because uni is great. On top of that, today, as in Wednesday, we're going to be dissecting our cadaver. Each week we get given like red words that we need to learn. This week in particular, there's so many words. Another reason why I'm taking this all-nighter is because I ran 18 kilometers yesterday, so like Tuesday during the day, and then I got home and I just crashed out because I was so tired, and I took a nap. So that's one of the other reasons as like to why I'm doing this all-nighter, because I already took a nap. But yeah, essentially I've got 3 things that I really need to do. So those are of like super high importance. First one is getting through the content for this week, which focuses on the large intestine. Second would be to cover up and be very familiar with the anatomy of the large intestine. And not only that, the basic anatomy of the abdominal cavity and like peritoneal cavity. No, what am I saying? The abdominal cavity. Man, I'm crashing out. And then third is, because I have clinical skills tomorrow on the Thursday, is to be familiar with how to provide a musculoskeletal exam, as well as making sure that I haven't forgotten everything on the GI stuff. Let me just try this coffee before we start studying. Oh man, it tastes so good. I've been so dependent recently, and I've pretty much gotten an addiction to coffee. Not just caffeine, like coffee. Like, I love the taste of coffee. Whether it's just like a long black, dirty chai, mock, latte, anything. I just need coffee. Otherwise, like, I just crash out. Oh man. Also, we have Yuki here. Hi. I decided to study downstairs today. One, to have coffee, but also to keep him company. I feel like I'm just not letting him sleep, which is kind of bad. First thing we're going to do is look through, I guess, the content. The way uni works is each week I get given a set of like learning objectives, and those learning objectives are supposedly to help give us a guideline of like what we need to understand as doctors, or to pass our test, pretty much. So I'll share with you guys on the screen here some of the learning objectives, but I'll read through them. So like for this week, you need to have knowledge of the normal gross anatomy and microscopic structure of the colon, rectum, and how these are altered in disease. So that's really important. For example, in the colon and the rectum, there's differences in tenea coli, which is essentially like muscle, and then the epithelium actually changes in your rectum. The colon, it's all simple columnar lining, whereas in the rectum it changes from columnar to stratified squamous. But these are altered in diseases, so like there's various diseases that can make you sick. Wow, bruh, if you were my patient and I said that, you would have zero confidence in my clinical ability. Anyways, there's various diseases and like complications that can arise which change the gross anatomy and structure of your colon, and that will give various symptoms, so like and complications as well. So for example, if you have irritable bowel disease, there's two that are super common. First one is called UC, which is ulcerative colitis. Ulcerative meaning that it's chronic inflammation that gives ulcers, and colitis meaning it's like in the colon. Colitis, colon. I think that's how I say it. Anyways, the other one's called Crohn's disease. These are two super common, usually synonymous with like inflammatory bowel disease. Now, the way these change, sorry, I'm just babbling on now. I've just realized you guys are gonna have to sit and listen. How these change the microscopic structure is, it varies, but essentially in UC, it is a form of continuous inflammation of your colon, and it particularly changes the submucosa and mucosa of your colon. So that changes a lot of the structures there and damages it. And those structures are important for secreting mucus, absorbing like water, because that's what your colon is used for. And when you destroy that, that obviously comes with a lot of complications. Now with UC, it usually starts at the rectum and then spreads up, and it's like one continuous inflammation. This is opposed to Crohn's, which is more targeted at the terminal ileum, which is part of your small intestine. Your intestine is separated into three parts. Your duodenum, which looks like a C, your jejunum, and then your ileum, your terminal ileum. And Crohn's disease is usually worse, I think. You've got like four main layers: your mucosa, submucosa, muscularis externa, and your serosa. So your UC damages these two, but Crohn's disease damages all this. Anyways, that was a really good segue into one of the ways that I like to study, is going through the learning objectives and trying to explain it without looking at the textbook and seeing how much information and detail I can go into. That is pretty much in a nutshell the Feynman technique. Another one that I've been using, it's called the whiteboard technique, or I would just like to say the writing down technique. And what I mean by that is I would choose a specific topic. So let's say, for example, the topic that I decided to choose was, why am I having a mind blank? Let's say I decided to choose like inflammatory bowel disease. I would write everything that I know. And from a medical standpoint, that would be, the types of irritable bowel disease, what symptoms they present, what are the treatment options for each one, what medications would I use, the patients that are most at risk, and just write down all that information. For me, I find that's really, really useful. You can replicate this by using like flashcards as well. So making Anki flashcards that ask questions based on this. But that's how I study. On top of that, make flashcards based on the learning objectives. Now, I also find, and this is dependent on your uni, but I find sometimes the lectures can be redundant. A lot of the times your uni lecturers, they're really good academics, but that doesn't make them good teachers, right? Just dissing all uni lecturers. Sometimes they are really good at explaining, but more often than not, there are like online resources that are available that can potentially explain them better. You have Ninja Nerd, who I think is the GOAT. You've got Osmosis, you've got Khan Academy, and you've got a plethora of like online textbooks as well. Yeah, I highly recommend trying to find ways that you can promote active learning and active recall. And that's the best and most effective way to study, I feel. But yeah, I will go through all the learning objectives. Let's pick another one. Understand the nature of irritable bowel syndrome. And for that, if you want to understand it well, you can like try to collate or summarize all the information in like a table. For example, if I was to like compare the differences between IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome, and IBD, which is inflammatory bowel disorder, I would create a table. One side is IBS, one side is IBD, and I'd be like, okay, what is IBS? Like, what is it? So it's a functional disorder, whereas IBD is a chronic inflammation of the bowel. One of the main differences with IBS, pain improves after defecation. Pain gets worse in IBD. In IBD, you see weight loss. In IBS, you don't see weight loss. Stuff like that, and just summarize it all in a table. Writing notes is like the worst thing that you can do. It's like the biggest waste of time ever. Unless like you're writing notes down and then you're using those notes and implementing some sort of active recall. So for example, if like my clinical skills teacher wrote down, okay, you need to know how to do this. Okay, I will write down that I need to know that, but then like I would implement active recall on top of that. Am I making sense, guys? I feel like I'm just crashing out at this point. Okay, but anyways, I'm going to study now and you guys can study with me. I'm going to do Anki cards and see where I'm at with like everything. Yeah. Hey guys, I hope you're all well. I just wanted to take a quick moment to talk about today's vlog sponsor, Cupid. I just want you guys to take a moment and think about how many times you've done online shopping and then you bought something only to find out that you could find it cheaper elsewhere like 5 minutes later. It's probably the most annoying thing that's ever happened, especially if like you're a uni student like me where you need to be saving money and it just sucks to be spending more money than you should be. You shouldn't have to overpay for stuff that's cheaper elsewhere, and that's where Cupid comes in. Cupid is a completely free browser extension that works on Chrome, Edge, Safari, Firefox, and Opera. It's trusted by 8 million users daily and supported by 200,000 stores globally. Whether you're buying shoes, grocery, tech stuff, Cupid helps you save money in seconds, so there's no need to look for that product on a billion websites. Now let's say I'm shopping for like a Dyson vacuum cleaner, right? And I go on Amazon, it will show up with a Cupid price alert to see how many other stores are showing it and what their prices are and if there's anything cheaper as well. So all I gotta do is click on it and it shows me all the other websites like from eBay, Walmart, from the Dyson website, and bam, on eBay it's cheaper. I can see where it's cheaper and how much I'd save, and I can jump right into the better deal. It's probably one of the smartest features for anyone who does a lot of online shopping, and it just saves you a lot of time as well. It takes literally 30 seconds to install and sign up. Once you add it to your browser, you're good to go, and it automatically pops up on all shopping websites. You can also earn cash back on like your favorite items and stores, which you can cash out on your PayPal account, which I think is pretty cool. So basically guys, if you're anyone that shops online, download Cupid today and start saving on your purchases without having to lift a finger. Download Cupid using the link in my bio or the link here. And yeah, start saving money. All right, back to the vlog. But anyways, I'm going to start the recording and I'm going to show you guys how good I am at anatomy. Yeah, all right, here we go. So the red box here, this would be, oh my God, I don't know what it is. Okay, this would be your celiac trunk, which stems from your abdominal aorta, right? This is your splenic artery because it goes behind your stomach and then gives blood supply to the spleen. And then this one would be your left gastric artery, and then this one would be your common hepatic artery. Whenever we look at images, you have to think of them back to front. Do you know what I mean? Like everything is like the opposite. This is your left and this is your right. That's what you said. Yeah. Explain how GI bleeding can form from chronic esophagitis. First, what is chronic esophagitis? Am I even saying that right? Anyways, that is, okay, if it's chronic, it means it's ongoing. It's been happening for a while. Yeah. And then anything tis means like, usually like infection or like inflammation. I'm going to say it's persistent inflammation of the esophageal mucosa, and that can lead to progressive mucosal damage. And this is bad because your mucosa has enterocytes, which help with absorption. Also have goblet cells, I think. But I did want to show you guys this Anki card that I have. And I think it is a really good card because it's one of the things that like you have to know. So here we have the arterial supply of the stomach, right? And I'm going to see if I can like say all the right ones. But as you can tell, like each organ has, and depending on the organ, has so many different arterial blood supply, but also venous drainage and nerve innervation. And in medicine, you have to know all three. So for your large intestines, there's like your colon, there's like different sections, and each section is supplied by a different like artery and a different vein and different nerves. And you have to remember all of that, which is just sometimes just the worst. Another thing you can do is you can ask ChatGPT, any AI system, to create questions based on what you're being tested on. So what I've done is I've just put in the learning objectives and I've told chat to write me questions based on learning objectives, and it's actually giving me some pretty good answers. If you have the paid version, you can actually use voice mode, and like you can ask them to say, okay, ask me like random questions. And you can also use this for like your OSCEs when you're preparing for like your OSCEs and stuff. Yeah, I found that really, really useful. And obviously when you answer it using like your voice memo or like you type it, you're using active recall. So let's do that right now. So a question that I told chat to ask me: how do the intrinsic, so enteric, and the extrinsic autonomic nervous systems regulate colonic motility and secretion? Okay, so the way I would answer it is, okay, just for my benefit, the enteric nervous system, or the ENS, is separated into two, I guess, parts. You got your myenteric system, your pathway, and then your submucosal plexus. Your myenteric controls gut motility, so how things move within your gut, whereas your submucosal plexus controls glandular secretion and absorption. Now, your extrinsic autonomic nervous system, that separates into your parasympathetic and your sympathetic. Your parasympathetic initiates or promotes gut motility, and in particular like defecation, whereas your sympathetic inhibits that. The important nerves to remember for your parasympathetic would be your vagus nerve, that innervates most of your gut, as well as your pelvic splanchnic nerve, or as your sympathetic would be your thoracic splanchnic nerve, your lumbar splanchnic nerve. How do they regulate colonic motility and secretion? Oh, so through those pathways. Cool. They send afferent and efferent signals via those things that I just said. The good thing about your enteric is it works by itself, so it doesn't need to send signals to the brain to come back. It works like as its own nervous system. In particular, it helps with, I'm pretty sure, relaxation of your internal anal sphincter, which is like a muscle that will relax upon stimulation from food that passes down and causes activation of stretch receptors. So I answered the question. Obviously there's a lot more detail, and like there's some things that I need to clarify, but yeah, that's just another helpful way that I feel like you guys could use to help you study. I'm so tired. Just taking a little break, guys. A little nutritionist break. Whenever we're studying, I do urge you to like make sure that you don't run yourself to the ground. You know, there is such thing as like too much study, and it does reach like a threshold point where like you study but like it's not affected because like your brain is just too tired. But you also need to fuel yourself, and I urge you guys to like be healthy. I know we have a tendency to like stress eat, like I do as well. Whenever I have like exams, being really, really stressed, my nutritional intake just goes out the window. I'm just eating whatever I see, whether that's like 2-minute noodles, ramen, roast pork, KFC. Is just go. I just turn into like fattest, ugliest thing in the world. But this year I've decided to change that because I don't want to turn into that, and no one wants that. So every time I study, I try to snack on nutritious food that has nutritional value, or if it doesn't have nutritional value, isn't detrimental to my energy levels. For example, like eating chips or like snacking on like lollies and stuff, that'll give me, like lollies in particular will give me a sugar rush, but then I'm just gonna crush it out. Fruits and like vegetables are a healthy alternative. They help improve your satiety, which is the feeling that makes you feel full. You guys can have some watermelon. Another high yield study tip, it's like an ongoing joke. Whenever like in med school, if you hear the word high yield, like you just immediately, all your senses are like dilated and like you have to listen. Med students love high yield stuff. A high yield advice suggest for you guys is, if you want to have sustained, effective, efficient study sessions, I highly recommend you trying to eliminate all distractions. Any tabs, like YouTube tabs, get rid of it. Your phone, like turn it off, or like put it somewhere, or put it in your bag so that you don't get distracted. Make sure your study space is like nice and neat and there's no distractions. If you're in a library, maybe sit somewhere that's quite quiet. And if you're someone that can't study in silence, maybe put on some like ambient noise in the back, or like listen to music. I sometimes listen to K-pop when I study. I don't tend to listen to English music. I don't tend to, unless it's like slower, just because I know like what the words mean. So like I'm concentrating on the words rather than what I need to do, and like sometimes I can't multitask. I also think I have ADHD, but like that's a whole different story time thing. But yeah, I listen to like K-pop and jazz just because I'm not Korean, so I don't know what they're saying. It just sounds like noise to me, kind of. Is the best way. And it's very therapeutic noise. Same with jazz. Let's get back to studying.
I have a strawberry side on the side next to you. No wasting time. Can you tell me the truth? I'm feeling you, yeah, I'm feeling you. Oh, oh, be honest, tell me what's on your mind. Oh, baby, when I lay my eyes on you from afar.
Alright guys, it is now officially, as you can tell by that, 6:19 a.m. Fantastic. I have class in about 4.5 hours. Really good study session. I got a lot done, but there's still a lot more that I need to do. So I reckon the plan is take a shower, get ready to go to med school, get there early, do some study before class, and then yeah, we'll see how it goes. So let's get ready to go.
One of you, I'm always ready, so call me over. We're meant to be like the sun and the moon. I just want you to know I have a strawberry side on the side next to you. No wasting time, can you tell me the truth? I'm feeling you, yeah, I'm feeling you. Oh, oh, be honest, tell me why. Honest, tell me why. I have a strawberry side on the side next to you. No wasting time, can you tell me the truth? I'm feeling you, yeah, I'm feeling you. Oh.
Alright guys, I am back. Sorry it has been a little while. So yeah, what has happened? Gone to uni and started studying. We had dissection today, and today we were dissecting the small intestine from the mesenteric, like separating it, as well as actually cutting and dissecting the liver and removing it from the abdominal cavity, as well as trying to identify important veins and blood vessels, as well as just like general structures, so that we have a good understanding of, you know, where they are anatomically in the body. So for example, your portal vein, which houses the junction of your superior mesenteric vein and your splenic vein, that runs posteriorly to your pancreas. So we had to dissect it, clean up that area, and like try to identify that vein. After we dissected that, there's something called overflow. So you get a set of instructions on what you need to dissect for your cadaver, and whatever you don't get done during your anatomy dissection class time, that's your responsibility, your group's responsibility to make sure that you get that done before next week. So then in like our group chat, we just allocate times, and people get to pick a time when they come into the anatomy lab and just dissect according to like the dissection booklet. So after dissection, took like a short break, and then from around about 1:15 to around about 2 o'clock, we worked on like a different chapter of that book, still dissecting the abdominal cavity, but labeling those vessels and stuff like that. So when we get tested on it on the exam and they ask us to point out the left gastric artery, we know, oh, okay, it's this one because we've labeled it, and we also know because we've dissected and we've been able to identify it. After that, I came back, did a little bit of study, and then got myself a coffee because I am chronically sleep deprived, and now we're here. While I was studying in the morning and like while I was studying today, I was consolidating on the previous week's content, and I think that's something that's like really important with staying on top of uni and med school in particular. You don't want to cram because you just feel super stressed, and if you're able to use spaced repetition, and I use it by using Anki, you're able to develop, pretty much enhance your ability to retain information. So I've been going over my week 1 and week 2 Anki cards on the small intestine and the upper gastrointestinal tract, and I've gone through maybe like a quarter of them, which is like okay. Later tonight I'll keep looking through that because I went through the large intestine Anki cards last night, this morning actually. Right now I'm actually going to do a little bit of preparation for tomorrow's class. In tomorrow's class we have clinical skills, and we're going to be learning how to do a MSK physical exam. So that's noticing any abnormalities or like deformities in like your hands. We haven't learned this in med school yet. We haven't actually covered the musculoskeletal system, but I assume when there is a musculoskeletal disorder or disease, there are various symptoms on your hands, and we're going to be learning how to check for all those as well as check other things. All Alright, good morning guys. It is the next day. We're heading into med school because we've got clin skills, as I mentioned yesterday. After yesterday, went and played soccer, came home, ate dinner, did a little bit more of Anki, like flashcards. But then after that, I just crashed, fell asleep because I was so tired from the previous day of not sleeping. But yeah, today have a jam-packed day. After clin skills, gonna have to do a lot more study, have some meetings that I've got planned as well. So yeah, all in all, a super jam-packed day for today, and yeah, gonna try to once again be as productive as possible. I did get through quite a lot yesterday in terms of content, but as you guys know, we have an IRAT every Friday, so I just want to revise for that IRAT. So I'm going to cover over the content of this week as like the main objective, and then start looking at the content for next week in terms of anatomy, so like the red words and stuff like that, as well as just continue revising over the previous week's content, so like weeks 1 and 2, because we do have a block test, summative block test in about 1.5 weeks. So scary times, but yeah, let's head to med school. Hello, my name is Peter. I'm going to be examining you today. I'm a second year med student. Is that alright?
Yeah, that's cool.
Did you do hand hygiene before?
Yeah, standing ticket.
Okay, cool. Vital signs are important. Okay, cool. I'm going to start with inspection of your hands. So, on general inspection, there are no scars, there are no deformities, including ulnar deviation of your metacarpal joints. Now we're going to palpate your hands. So, for you to pronate. I'll use pronate here. I'm just going to feel for your ulnar and radial joint. So this is your radial. This is your ulnar. I'm going to feel for your radial carpal joint. Awesome, thank you. Now I'll get you to keep them pronated. I'm going to feel for your scaphoid in here. Now I'm going to check for your carpal metacarpal joints. So I'll get you to go like this. And then I'm going to feel for your metacarpal bones and your flexors tendons. Alright guys, the time is 6 or 7. And yeah, we spent a pretty, I'd say, productive day at uni. Was yapping to a couple of my mates not too long ago for a little bit. I'll give you guys a quick rundown of what happened. Got to uni and then I was actually running late to class. So got to class 1 minute late, not too bad. And we went through the muscular and physical exam. And that's when we look at the various muscles and check the tendons on your hands as well as your elbows, and just check for any neuropathy as well as any neuro inability. So like if you're unable to abduct, flex, rotate your wrists and stuff like that, that could mean you have either a muscular musculoskeletal injury or like a nerve injury. So we went through that, and then afterwards I did some study, got some coffee, and then met up with one of the MD1s just to give some advice on how to do well in med school, or like just like some general advice on stuff, and then just continue studying. Yeah, it's been pretty jam-packed. Took some breaks in between, not checking my phone or anything, but just talking to like some of my friends, which is really good. But now I think I'm gonna try to lock back in. There is just a little bit more that I want to consolidate before I call it a day, and that's for the IRAT, for the large intestine. And I just want to make sure that I understand the neurovascular of it and all the relevant treatments, as well as the pathophysiology, just everything that I need to know for the IRAT tomorrow. So yeah, I'm just going to spend some time doing that. I just want to show you something really cool though. Well, I think it's cool. I recently bought this. This is like a controller. Got for like $30 on Amazon. You can just search up controller, but essentially what I've done is I've mapped it so that I can connect it to my laptop. and I use this as like my Anki controller. So I've actually mapped the buttons out. So this is like my space bar. This is like option 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if I can show you guys, I'll start doing my Anki cards, right? How is iron deficiency anemia diagnosed? Transfer saturation would be low. So then I would press this for the space bar, shows me the answer, and it is low. And if I think the card is easy, I've mapped it so like I see it again in 5 days. So then it's easy. How cool is that? I think that's pretty cool. You know, you could just like use a keyboard like a normal person, but sometimes when I'm in bed and I want to study, it's very uncomfortable for me. I don't want to like sit on my desk table. I just want to lay in bed and be lazy. It gives me that freedom to study in bed. So like I'll just be going like boom, click, click, click. Super, super unnecessary. But you know, there's no other excuse to study. You know, there's no other excuse to not be on top of my Anki cards. What excuse do I have? I have a remote for Anki so that I don't have to physically touch the keyboard. So it's more ergonomic. Anyways, I thought that'd be cool. I just wanted to share it. It's really cute. It's like tiny. Alright guys, we are home. Long story short, my phone died and also ran out of storage, so I couldn't get to film the end of the day. But I spent the rest of the day studying, as you probably would have guessed, and then went to the gym. I hope you guys liked that vlog. It's a little bit different, using this year to like kind of experiment, you know, different vlog styles and stuff. And I hope that one was more informative and definitely hope it was enjoyable as well. I definitely did yap on a lot during that vlog, kind of telling you guys my process of like how I study, just so you guys get a little bit more like insight into like what I do. Maybe there's some things that you guys can take out of it and use and like replicate. So there's some things that you probably want to stay away from, like staying up all night to study. But yeah guys, I really hope you enjoyed that vlog. There's heaps more coming. I've just been a super busy period with uni, so I do apologize for like the delayed posting times and stuff like that. But once again, thank you so much for all the support. Like I really do appreciate everything. I wouldn't be in this position without you guys. You guys have been an amazing support for me, and I love being able to wake up every day and like do something that I love, which is making content and filming my life and sharing it with you guys. So yeah, it means a lot. I hope life is also treating you guys well, and just remember that, you know, if you're going through a tough time, just know that there are people around you that will support you, that care about you. You're not alone, and tough times never last. Anyways, I gotta go back to studying, but yeah, thank you so much for sticking to the end, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.